Hi everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here, and earlier this week I put out my podcast episode about Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. In that episode, me and my guest Kaylee talked about how we feel the film is underrated. However, we did have some issues with the film, and it felt like there were things missing. Luckily, thanks to friend of the show Tyler Yost, good old Uncle Tony got himself the Workprint version of this film, and I went through it, and I'm ready to talk about it today in this video.
Now be a good little doggy and go.
This was a rough one because I couldn't really find a definitive, detailed breakdown that was like beat by beat of everything that was different. If you've watched previous videos, usually I get them on moviecensorship.org, or sometimes they have a website dedicated to it. There was on Facebook, I guess someone at some time made a assembly cut where they worked in footage from this cut and the German release of the film, which for some reason has more deleted scenes that aren't even in the work print that I'm going to talk about today. And that had a detailed breakdown, but that was for the assembly version, not the specific work cut. I was able to find at least a detailed breakdown of all the deleted scenes from the German release and the work print on layerofhorror.tripod.com. Layer of Horror, I believe, was a website I used to go to a lot as a young teen. The tripod.com really backs up that statement, and I couldn't believe it was still running. But yes, if you go to layerofhorror.tripod.com, the Kruger layer, they do have a breakdown of all the deleted scenes, and some of which one I'm going to talk about today. So yes, this is the work print. I mentioned there is a German version of the film that apparently has even more deleted scenes and alternate takes, but we're just going to talk about the work print today because that's what I was able to get my hands on. I'm not going to go through every single change. It has a lot of stuff, alternate takes, temp tracks. I will mention the music here and there, but not too much. Like I said, Layer of Horror has a better breakdown if you want to see the entire list of everything, but let's just talk about the things that I found interesting. So in the beginning, when they do the Wizard of Oz parody, they actually use audio from the original Wizard of Oz. Also, another example of different audio, when John hits his head on a rock when he exits Springwood, there's a different song that plays. After that, we get the original introduction to Maggie, which has more backstory. The camera moves through her place and shows that her dad died recently. This is where she first has the dream about her being chased by a man who she might assume at this point in the film is her father who died. I'm guessing her dad dying triggered these memories, which puts the plot in motion. It's actually Maggie's birthday, and she gets a visit from her mother. You might remember me bringing up that Maggie's mom shows up real late to the film in the theatrical cut. Every time I watch it, I'm like, it always catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, I didn't know she still had an adopted mom. I thought maybe she was an orphan or something.
Yeah.
Here, she shows up right away, and it's actually established that it's Maggie's birthday, and she comes to celebrate.
You don't have to surprise me, Mother. I turned 28 today, not 12.
So all this history that's happened with all these films has taken place in less than 28 years, which makes the opening title of 10 years from now even more confusing. That's a lot that happened. Freddy kills those kids and that town forgets regularly. Oh my God. There's a scene of John with a bunch of homeless people in an alley, and then a few scenes later is the scene from the movie where the cops pick him up. Yeah, this one wasn't really needed. It made sense to cut this. The famous 3D glasses in this film get mentioned much earlier, and Yaphet Kotto brings up the whole different way of looking at things, which gets brought up again at the end of the film, which again, it felt a little weird and tacked on at the end. So having some kind of establishment here makes it a little better. That being said, it's still really ridiculous and I don't understand it. Actually, in the theatrical cut, you could see Maggie eyeing the 3D glasses off screen. The work print shows that she's actually holding them in front of the Dream Demon paintings, but it's cropped in the theatrical cut. There's a scene where the doc has a sparring session with Tracy and talks about how she can control her dreams, but she needs to be able to control her mind. John's nightmare in the padded room goes on a little longer. There's like a gimp, a guy in an electric chair, and other crazy stuff, and then Freddy wakes him up with an alarm clock.
This is your wake-up call, sonny boy!
I'm guessing they cut Freddy because this kind of undermines the whole Freddy can't leave Springwood thing that they established in the beginning of the film. I guess in the theatrical cut, we're supposed to just believe that this is just a regular nightmare John is having. Or maybe it's like a residual thing from Freddy's power. I'm not sure. Either way, they cut Freddy out of the scene. And actually, I think it works a little bit better without Freddy in this scene. I like seeing Freddy in the beginning and then waiting a little bit for him to come back in the film. I kind of like how they did that. So this was a smart cut. I'm glad they cut this. In this cut, when the bell rings at the fair, it actually shows all the townspeople leaving. So it kind of explains where they all kind of go for the rest of the film. It also shows that Tom Arnold and Roseanne actually knew John. They have an interaction here.
You said you were getting out, but you brung back more.
So this next part is actually not in the work print. It's apparently for the TV cut, but from what I'm reading, I think it made its way into the German release too. When Carlos is looking at the map, instead of saying "you're fucked," it ends up saying "you're screwed." Obviously, they were going to do that for the TV version, but it was interesting to see that they actually used the censored version for a regular home video release. When Carlos dreams, he hears his mother's voice before her appearance. In the theatrical cut, it's Tracy's voice.
Why don't you listen to me, Carlos? You never listen!
Who the hell are you? Why aren't you listening to me, Carlos?
In this version, when Freddy takes the needle out of his finger, they add a few seconds of him licking himself. Hearing Freddy's weird moans and whatnot is funnier in this cut because they haven't mixed the audio yet and it's missing all the other sound effects. So his voice is just so weird and silly. This version of the film also has Freddy sucking Carlos's soul. I think this might have been in one of the trailers. I'd have to check. There's an added scene in the Elm Street house where Maggie finds Freddy's secret murder room. This scene also helps clear up that this is actually Freddy's former house. We're finally learning that. So the video game scene in this cut actually has the Super Mario Brothers music playing and Super Mario Brothers sound effects. I'm guessing this was a temp track. I doubt this was ever intended to be in the final cut. But it was cool to see the Super Mario Brothers theme playing during this wacky scene. And obviously, if I play the music, Nintendo will copyright claim this. So I'll do my best to imitate it right now without getting claimed. Do 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 do. In this version, when they steal Freddy's remote, he still pulls out his custom-made power glove. But he doesn't call it a power glove in this cut.
Hey, you forgot the power glove!
Hey, you forgot the remote!
So we actually get a one-liner from Freddy after he kills Spencer.
Game over, Game Boy!
In the theatrical cut, they cut out this one-liner, which is odd because usually when he kills people, he does a little button on a scene afterwards. But for whatever reason, they did another take where Freddy thanks John for bringing him more souls.
Great to be back in business. Thanks to you.
During John's death scene, Freddy plays to the camera a little bit more when he pulls out the bed of spikes. We fast forward a bit to the end of the movie, and when Maggie puts on the 3D glasses, I shit you not, she looks directly in the camera and goes,
Now.
I'm guessing to signal to the audience to put on the glasses, which is fine. But when you're watching this and you're invested in the story, you're gonna go, hey, why did she just say the word now for no reason? Luckily, they cut this. This was really, really stupid. I guess they decided the act of her actually putting on the 3D glasses was enough to let everyone know the glasses needed to be put on. But yeah, it was still funny that how she delivers that line. In the theatrical cut, her journey through Freddy's memories take her from the day he was killed, then to when he killed his wife, which is weird because it was going in order up until that point. The Workprint has an extra scene where she returns to, I guess that's the hub world in Freddy's brain. She accuses him of hiding memories from her, but then she finds the hidden door that leads to the scene with the murder of her mother. During the final confrontation, there's a really cringe line from Maggie where she puts on the glove, and I'm really glad they cut this.
Like father, like daughter.
That would have been like a cool line for a trailer, kind of like the Freddy vs. Jason Place Your Bets, which was cut out of the theatrical version. But remember, the movie wanted to surprise you with who Freddy's kid was, so having that in the trailer would have been a huge spoiler. But yeah, it would have been cringe there, and it would have been even more cringe in the movie, and I'm glad they cut it. Hi everyone, Tony from the future here, interrupting the video. I realized while editing, I totally missed that Freddy's death is a little different in the Workprint version. I don't know how I didn't catch this on my first go around with this. But yeah, let me play both scenes back to back, and you let me know what you think might be missing in the Workprint. The very last shot is different. There's a different take for Maggie's last line.
Freddy's dead.
Freddy's dead.
And then, instead of cutting to black, it lingers a little while longer and shows everyone high-fiving. Then the montage at the end is played while Freddy's Dead by Fishbone plays instead of Why Was I Born by Iggy Pop. So there you go, the Freddy's Dead Workprint. One of the apparently many alternate cuts of this film going around. Like I said, check out that Layer of Horror link, see what was in the German deleted scenes there. But yeah, I actually like some of the stuff that this Workprint has. I think Maggie's introduction was important because this film is so much about daddy and overall parent issues. It would have been nice to know that the man who raised her recently died. It makes it more interesting when she's finally confronted with the man who actually is her father, and he's a literal demon. So yeah, that would have been important. A couple cool things here and there. But yeah, they made the right call cutting some of these scenes. They weren't too important to the plot. And like I said, that whole now and like father like daughter thing, that was cringe as hell. Thank God they cut that. But yes, let me know what you think of this Workprint. And again, if you want to know what I think of the actual film, go back and watch my review for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. And remember, I actually reviewed most of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and this October, we will be reviewing Freddy vs. Jason. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. On Patreon, I have commentary tracks for Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and New Nightmare. If you become a patron, check that out. If you're new here, every Monday we have a new podcast episode. We talk about movies new and old. It airs at 3 p.m. And then it's available on podcast feeds, wherever you get your podcasts. So check that out. And one last thing. I can't believe in my review I forgot to mention the Twin Peaks reference in the film.
We're in Twin Peaks here.
Definitely.
I'm ashamed because I'm currently selling Twin Peaks inspired parody merchandise. Of course, I'm talking about the world famous Tony Peaks design. That's me in a tiara there, looking like the homecoming queen. You can get that in poster form or shirt form now at my store. I will link below. So check that out. Check out the Patreon. Buy the shirt or poster. Do whatever you want. Thank you for being here, and thanks for coming back if you're already a subscriber. I will see you in your dreams.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.
Talking about tapes.